Mia's world began crumbling at exactly 4 p.m. on a Monday that started like any other. The 22-year-old had never experienced pain like this. Stomach cramps so severe they left her doubled over, clutching her abdomen as waves of agony rolled through her young body. She tried to convince herself it was just indigestion, maybe menstrual cramps, anything normal that would pass with time. By 6 p.m., the pain had intensified beyond anything she could rationalize away. Every few minutes, Mia found herself rushing to the bathroom, her body desperate for relief that never came. When she finally confided in her husband David, 30, about the mysterious pain consuming her, his response was a knife to an already wounded heart. David teased her. He laughed at her frequent bathroom trips like they were a personal inconvenience to him. "Take some Pepto-Bismol," he said dismissively, rolling his eyes as if his wife's agony was nothing more than an attention-seeking performance. When Mia continued suffering in silence, David made cruel jokes about her dramatic bathroom visits, each comment cutting deeper than the physical pain racking her body. Then came the bleeding. Heavy, terrifying bleeding that sent panic shooting through Mia's chest. The cramps evolved into something primal. Waves of pain so intense she couldn't stand, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Through tears of desperation, she begged David to take her to the emergency room. This was uncharted territory for Mia. At 22, she'd never been to an ER in her life, had barely seen the inside of any hospital except when she'd broken her foot at 19. But David acted like she was a hypochondriac wasting everyone's time. His exasperation was palpable as he grudgingly drove her to the hospital, his every gesture screaming that this was beneath him. The emergency room wait stretched over 2 agonizing hours. Mia, trying to spare David further inconvenience, told him he could go home and return when she was discharged. She never imagined he'd actually abandon her. His wife, bleeding and terrified, in a sterile hospital corridor. But he did. Without hesitation, David walked away, leaving Mia alone with her pain and fear. When the doctor finally saw her, his assessment was swift and dismissive. "Just menstrual cramping," he declared after barely listening to her symptoms. A couple of Tylenol and she was sent home to a husband wearing a smug "I told you so" expression. "I'm glad it soothed your anxiety," David said with condescending satisfaction, as if Mia's medical emergency had been nothing more than an emotional overreaction. But the nightmare was far from over. Mia couldn't sleep, couldn't find relief. She was soaking through pads in 90 minutes, the bleeding so heavy it defied explanation. The cramps continued their relentless assault on her body, each wave more brutal than the last. By 2 a.m., Mia was sobbing in the bathroom, her tears mixing with blood as her body betrayed her in ways she couldn't understand. David woke to find her crying, and his first instinct wasn't comfort or concern. It was accusation. "Are you being dramatic?" he asked, his voice dripping with suspicion and annoyance. Even in her most vulnerable moment, even as his wife bled and wept, David's primary concern was whether she was performing for attention. The humiliation of returning to the same emergency room, facing the same check-in clerk who'd seen her just hours before, burned almost as much as the physical pain. But this time, the truth emerged with devastating clarity. The doctor, genuinely apologetic for his earlier misdiagnosis, delivered news that shattered Mia's understanding of her own body. She was having a miscarriage of a pregnancy she never knew existed. While David had been mocking her pain, dismissing her suffering, and abandoning her at the hospital, Mia's body had been losing a life she didn't even know she was carrying. The doctor's apology felt hollow against the weight of this revelation. Not just the medical tragedy, but the profound loneliness of enduring it without her husband's support. Mia came home broken in ways that extended far beyond the physical. Her tears were for the lost pregnancy, for the husband who'd failed her so completely, for the trust that lay shattered on their bathroom floor alongside the evidence of her loss. When she told David about the miscarriage, he finally apologized, but his words felt empty. Too little and far too late. The emotional aftermath was almost worse than the physical trauma. Mia found herself drowning in shame and confusion, wondering if her pain was valid, if her husband's cruelty was somehow justified. She knew miscarriages were common, often requiring no medical intervention, yet she felt stupid for suffering so intensely. The fact that David never acknowledged his behavior, never took responsibility for abandoning her in her darkest hour, left her questioning her own reality. Sitting in the wreckage of what should have been her husband's unconditional support, Mia wondered if she was being overdramatic. If losing a pregnancy she never knew about, while being emotionally abandoned by the person who promised to love her in sickness and health was really that serious. The doubt eating at her was almost as painful as the cramps had been. Have you ever had your pain dismissed by someone who should have supported you? How do you cope when medical emergencies reveal the true character of those closest to you? Share your thoughts on supporting loved ones through health crises.